All right, let's talk about some hints and tips and learnings, things that I've learnt over the years doing up project boats and also on this particular boat. Some of them I've learnt from trial and error, from other people, and from some people on the channel as well. All right, let's get into it. No particular order. First thing I would say is, if you're going to do up a project boat, be very careful about the boat you actually buy. Pick something a boat that you really love and you're passionate about, but something that is a bit of a classic brand or model. Don't just do up any piece of junk, because look, if you start with junk, you end with junk, you know? Pick an old Caribbean, an old Bertram, an old Haynes, an old Eden Craft, even a Pride, I don't know, just something cool so that when you do it up and you're finished with it, it's something that will have, you know, a niche market or following for it, because old junk no-name boats, project boats, are literally a dime a dozen, and no one wants them. Now, when it comes to the actual process of how to tackle one of these boats, you actually need to switch your entire mindset. And what I mean by that is, if you have a new boat, you don't want to find anything wrong with it. You want everything to be perfect. When you have an old boat, you've got to look at it in a totally different way. You've actually got to see finding problems as a good thing, believe it or not. And you have to actually actively look for problems, because the way that I like to tackle these boats is a simple one. It's quite literally the process of elimination. Okay, so I find all the problems with the boat. I keep looking for problems with the boat, and I literally list them in a document like a spreadsheet, and I just start listing them, all the things that need replacing, fixing, or that I'm going to do to it. I don't necessarily have the answer at that point as to how I'm going to fix it, but I identify all the problems, and you've got to honestly see them as a good thing, because it's just like your own personal health. You know, if you've got symptoms or issues, go get that shit checked out before it's too late, honestly. People that just go on living their life like everything's okay with your health and with your project boat, you don't want to do that, because you need your boat to be reliable, you know, when it counts, when you're out to sea and things like that. So find the problems, eliminate them in a structured manner. List them down as you find them, or when you know what you want to do, and don't worry at that particular point in time if you don't know exactly how you're going to do it, because there'll be time to learn from other people, research, and sometimes a good idea just pops up when you're least expecting it. Could be on this channel, could be elsewhere. Now, I'll give you an example. I knew that I wanted to mount my sounder here, okay, but I absolutely hate it when people have sounders mounted on top of their dashboards. And I especially more hate it when the dashboard itself is sloped like this one and people mount them and they sit on an angle. Okay, they look absolutely ridiculous. So several times I looked at this sounder, and it had to be mounted down lower than the dash, so you could actually see it in the right, so you could see over the top of it, basically. And I looked at it, and the idea, it just wouldn't come to me. I didn't know how I was going to do it. So I just put it on the back burner, and I kept going with other things on the boat. And one day I was walking along in a hardware store, and I saw these beautiful little gloss elbow brackets here, which are rated to hold something ridiculous like over 100 kilograms each. And as soon as I saw them, the idea just came to me. Get the elbow brackets, bolt them through here with big thick washers and everything on the other side, so it's super strong, and then bolt them through the actual bracket itself that comes factory with the sounder. Now, when the sounder's on there, you can't see any of that. It looks beautiful, it looks neat. So it took a long time for that idea to come to me, believe it or not. It took over a month for that to come to me, and I just couldn't figure out how I was going to do it. Now the sounder sits perfectly flat. I've installed it using a level, all that sort of stuff. And when the sounder's in there, it looks really neat and elegant. So if you want to tackle something and you don't have the right idea at the time, don't stress. Pick up another item in your spreadsheet that you are happy with your idea on and move forward with that. Okay, a few people have asked me about how I mounted these pedestals on the floor. First thing I would say, never mount pedestals directly to a fiberglass boat floor that has wood underneath it, or even a fully composite floor. Well, you need to be very, very careful how you do it, because I've had pedestal seats rip out on me on several times in offshore situations. So the challenge was to mount these seats on this floor, which is actually not level. I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up, but it has a curve almost in the entire thing, okay? So sometimes you've got to think outside the box. And again, it took me a long time for such a simple idea to come to me. So what I did, cut out a circle, 18mm marine ply. I basically positioned it on the floor. I filled underneath with body filler, like just, you know, fiberglass body marine filler. And what I did was I leveled the boat, and then I used a level with the filler underneath to I put a fair bit under there to get the circle in the exact position I wanted it. From there, what I did is I mixed up some fiberglass resin out of the hardener, and I basically poured it all the way around the edges and then pushed it under there with a brush, like literally as much as it would possibly take. So bogged it to the floor, made it perfectly level like that. So I have a level surface on top, resin all the way around and underneath. And then what I did was I just painted it, and as you can see here, it looks beautiful. Basically looks like a factory thing. There's the one that's completed. And I just bolted that seat through with big heavy gauge, basically decking screws. They're super thick. They're probably 6mm thick or something like that. And they have a thread the whole way through. So the thread went all the way through the timber and all the way through the existing floor. And this seat is literally rock solid. So you just have to think outside the box sometimes. Now, other ways I could have done that. I could have cut an actual timber ring, for example, around the outside. I could have sticky taped that to the floor internally with masking tape and all over the floor, so that it would basically create a sealed surface in there. And what I could have done is leveled my boat and then poured fiberglass resin in there with hardener, and it will naturally flatten out and level. So I would have had a solid fiberglass circle. So you can do lots of great things with masking tape and fiberglass, for example. Let's say you wanted to create something that matched this surface shape perfectly. All you have to do is put strips of thick masking tape all over the surface. You can then get your fiberglass matting and resin, fiberglass directly to the top of the masking tape, okay? And then when it fully sets and dries, you can pop it off. It will just pop off, okay? So the fiberglass resin and matting doesn't bond well to the waxy surface on the top of masking tape. So with a bit of careful thinking and planning, you quite literally, as in a DIY situation, can fiberglass just about anything. And I've been doing this for a really long time. So I'm hoping you can sort of picture what I'm talking about there. Okay, now timber. Timber in houses and boats, I really typically don't like, and what I mean by that is the constant maintenance that you need to stain it, the upkeep, etc. Another option, what I've actually done here with this boat is I've recut out all this timber for the side pockets in a 12mm marine ply, and what I've actually done is applied 2 coats of fiberglass resin and hardener, just with a short nap paint roller, okay, over the top of the timber, and I actually tinted the resin white. It's not perfectly white, but it's a good idea, I think, to tint the resin the color you're going to be painting it if you choose to paint it. So what we have here is all the timber is coated with 2 coats of fiberglass. It's obviously going to make it very waterproof, even though it's marine ply. It'll last a hell of a long time like this. Very waterproof, very durable. And then I've painted it over the top with a gloss single part paint, which looks really nice. And because it's got that resin underneath it already, it gives a very high gloss finish on it. So yeah, if you're gonna have timber in your boat and you're just gonna keep staining it, etc., be prepared to put a lot of work into that. So I've done the rear marlin board 6 months ago, and already the stain is the varnish is already basically coming off. So I'm probably gonna coat all of the natural looking timber here, which is here and up on these bait board things. I'm gonna do the same process that I've basically done with the side pockets to minimize maintenance. Now, when it comes to filling minor cracks, holes, etc., in your gel coat, believe it or not, sticky tape is once again your friend. Now, you can't do this everywhere, but if you can, to get a really nice finish, I know that the color's off there, this all will be painted, but basically see if you can put something like masking tape along a surface and then push your filler, whether it's some sort of gel coat repair or whatever, push it behind the masking tape or pour it in from above. So all of the holes, all holes in horizontal surfaces, for example, sticky tape, masking tape from below, and then pour your filler in through the top, and it will sit nice and flat. So I've repaired tons of holes in this boat. I'm still going. But, you know, they've come up pretty well. You can try and match your gel coat color by tinting your gel coat, etc. Sometimes it works okay. It doesn't work massively great, so be prepared to, I would say, touch things up with some well-matched gloss paint or something if you need to. But yeah, just go around, fill the holes one at a time, take it easy. It's always good to either, you know, basically the fillers need something to bite to. So it's always good to really drill or hone out a hole first to give, like, for example, like drilling the sides so they have an angle like that, so the more area to actually bite to. Otherwise, your repairs will just fall out in a couple of months or so. Next thing is, when you're doing up project boats, don't just rebuild what's there. Look for areas to improve your boat. So for example, this boat had literally 4.5 meter long side pockets, okay? They were absolutely massive. They were an absolute nightmare to get out, okay? So I thought, nah, I'm never dealing with this crap again. I'm gonna split them in two. So now I've made the side pockets basically have 2 pieces on either side. In the back corners, there were these ugly little fold down seat things, and I thought, you know what? I don't want to put those things back in. I'm just gonna get some eskies and I'm gonna throw them down there, and they're gonna sit there happily in the back corners, and they can be used for bait or food or whatever. You can step on them, they're strong. And I've also put some of this self-adhesive grip on top to stop people slipping over, etc. So, you know, you don't have to fully bastardize your boat. I'm definitely going to keep this boat looking like a kind of a classic boat, but, you know, just slight design tweaks along the way definitely will make it feel like a much nicer place to be. For example, I've spoken about the chairs before. I could have went for a sort of ultra modern looking sporty chair like you see in a lot of new boats, but I decided to go for new chairs, but they're that real sort of classic captain's look chair. So I guess my point is, improve things on your boat, but don't completely change or botch up the theme so it looks like a Bitzer. I see quite a few people doing up project boats, and it just looks like some things are modern, some things are old, too many different color schemes going on, and the boat just doesn't end up looking nice. So, like I mentioned, that blue up the back will be gone. That will be changed. That wooden bait board area will be sort of cream like the rest, but just, I don't know, think first before you act. It's important to have the right ideas before you execute. When it comes to putting new screws and things in your boat, a few things. Firstly, try and match them as much as possible. Put the least different combinations of screws in your boat. Obviously, always stainless steel. 316 is better than 304. 304 will rust quite easily. So for example, all the screws in the side pockets are these kind of screws that are sitting flat and flush. Up the top, I've got all the same ones here. As I mentioned before, rather than putting self-tapping screws back in everywhere, what I've actually done is used aluminium angle line behind here, and I've actually bolted it into the boat, and I've bolted the side pockets into the angle line. So as in washers, nylock, lock nuts, etc. So little things like that, they're not just going to rip out, you know, just because one screw lets go or something like that. Or I'm not going to take one of these out and then screw it in again and it's going to create a new hole. Okay, so it's all bolted in through angle line. So there might be things that no one else is really going to see or appreciate with your boat, but doing things like just making sure all your screws are good quality. They're all, for example, metric, so you know what tools you're going to be using, or imperial or whatever. And just think about how you do things, because it really does make a difference. When you just go to your garage and go get any old crappy screws because you think it's a good way to move forward, it just makes your life harder later on. So spend the money, match up all your screws and bolts as much as possible. Now for the flooring here, I've actually used something which I'm pretty happy with so far. It's actually just for something different. I know everyone's doing sea deck and all that sort of stuff. What this is actually a 1-part non-skid marine floor deck paint, and I've just done 2 coats of that, and hopefully you can see the texture, but there's a lot of texture in this stuff, and it has made the floor very, very grippy. So I'm actually very happy with this product. It's a Norglass product. Same with the gloss that I've used on the sides here. So it's a Norglass 1-part gloss paint. But yeah, so far I'm pretty impressed with this non-skid floor paint, to be honest. So once I sort of find a product line that I'm happy with, I typically reuse them. But yeah, if you're interested in doing your floor, so far so good with this stuff. Take the opportunity as you're fixing up your boat to remove anything that is redundant, and you might even choose to remove things and reinstall them later. For example, I've tidied up a hell of a lot of wiring in this boat. I don't know if you guys remember, but these side pockets, both sides all the way down, there's a lot of junk in there at the moment, but they were literally full of wires. Okay, so I've mentioned it before, but I think I've removed something like 10 kilograms of redundant wire from this boat, where owners over the years just obviously kept adding various devices, removing them, etc., and just leaving the wire in there. So it's a painful exercise, but with these old boats, I firmly believe it's good to understand how everything hangs together in your boat, where every wire goes. Remove all redundant crap from the boat, so if you're ever in a situation out to sea where you have an issue, you actually have a fighting chance to track back where it's coming from. And you know, it just makes the boat also a nicer place to be. So for example, all the wires are now running up in the top of the side pockets along here, and it's just getting much tidier. It had a marine stereo, for example. I just removed it, buggered it off. Right now, the boat needs so much more work to tidy it up and to fix it than to worry about things like stereo. So I took it out. That will come later. But yeah, tidy up the wiring. If you're not confident tidying up your wiring behind your dash, for example, I suggest that is something you leave definitely to the professionals. This has been done really nicely and professionally behind the dash. I definitely wouldn't touch it. I also had a lot of wiring tidy up work done around the back of the boat professionally, so it's looking a lot better. But yeah, look, tidy up your wiring. Anything you're not confident in tackling, don't. it's absolutely well worth paying for it, in my opinion. Now, if you need to do major repairs on your boat, like floors and transoms, etc., there'll be a lot of other good videos out there on YouTube about it, but a few basic tips. Obviously, first step is to remove all the old rotten timber out of there, cut it out, grind it out, get rid of it. Make sure you're wearing appropriate safety gear, okay? Fiberglass, dust, etc. in your lungs is really, really bad stuff. Will obviously cause cancer. All the timber you're putting back in your boat, make sure all of the flooring, etc. you're using marine ply. Make sure that any timber you're putting back in your boat, you actually coat with fiberglass resin first, okay? Like fully coat it. Just provides a protective barrier, and it will make that timber last a lot longer. And look, when it comes to choosing the non-timber products, something to be aware of, the funny thing is most people don't realize this, is that a lot of the boat builders still actually use timber because of the properties that it basically brings to the boat. So timber, believe it or not, if you talk to just about anyone, they say makes your boat handle better, makes it quieter, gives it more weight where you need it. A lot of the replacement products are actually very, very lightweight. So Haynes Hunter, for example, themselves, they still use timber in all of their boats by default. And if you talk to the right people, even from Haynes Hunter, they will tell you that they don't like building boats without timber because they don't like the way that their boats handle and perform, etc. All of the hull weights quoted on their website, for example, are for boats with timber. So look, taking on transoms and floor jobs are definitely not to be underestimated. They are big jobs, but if you take your time and you learn some basic fiberglassing techniques, you use the right timber, you'd be surprised how well of a job you can actually do. Now, is it worth doing when you can pay someone else to do it? I guess it really comes down to what the expense is, because it's a massive job, and every single transom and floor that I've done, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, I've vowed to just never do it again. I really don't like doing it, and the last one that we did was just a little Haynes Hunter 445R transom and floor, and it was just a really big job. Like, if you want to do it properly and you want the finish to be excellent and super strong, don't underestimate it, seriously. And my advice is definitely go get some quotes and see if it's actually worth your time to take on. But anyway, look, they're just a few things that I've encountered so far on this boat, which is still coming along, still needs quite a bit of work and money. And as I find problems with it, you know, I'm just eliminating the problems, like I said. Like, so I hate the fact that there is no, for example, fresh water to spray for the windscreen wipers when it gets salty and dry. So I'm about to install my own kit there. So, you know, be willing to have a crack. Don't be scared, but don't rush into things and jump into things if you're not confident. Ask someone, seek help, leave me a comment or whatever. I'll try and get back to you and just temporarily move on to something else. But keen to hear any other great ideas that I might have missed. Obviously, I've just covered some very, very basic things there, but yeah, let me know what you guys think and we'll chat soon.